Welcome back, thanks for tuning in. This is now part 4 for the mini workbench project, and since the end of the last video I took the top here into my good friend Claude, and he ran it through his plane, and it turned out really nice. I mean, it's nice and flat and true. It did leave a couple of marks on the ends, but I sanded those out really fast, and I can understand why people like those things, because in less than a minute on each side, this got trued up really nice and looks really nice. And it took me, over half an hour just to do one side with a hand plane to get it to look reasonable. Like I said, it's quite the nice tool. Unfortunately, it's very loud, so it's not going to end up in my shop because it's a basement shop, and I think my neighbors will be a little upset with that, and of course I just simply don't have the room. But fortunately, thanks to Claude, I have access to one if I ever need one again. And yeah, thank you very much for that. That was really kind of interesting to see that working. So what I need to do now is I need to figure out how high to make this. So remember from the first video, not only is this going to be a workbench, it's actually going to be a bench as well, because I do an awful lot of work in basements where I am kneeling on concrete, and I'm not terribly fond of that, as you can guess. And I need to put this at a height where I can sit comfortably on it and work on projects as if I were kneeling, but not having to. So I hemmed and hawed about this for a little bit, but I think I've come up with a reasonable height for this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this together with dowels, but what I'm going to do initially is I am going to friction fit this. I'm going to put it all together, and hopefully it'll hold together nicely without any glue or anything, and that way I can try it out, see if it is at a height I like, and then I can hopefully make small adjustments. And of course, obviously those adjustments are going to be hopefully it's going to be a little bit big, and I'm going to just trim it off a small amount and still be able to use all these parts. Otherwise, of course, I have to make new ones, but it'll just be the legs, so hopefully it won't take that much. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm using my usual method here for cutting long pieces of wood. I clamp it all firmly in place, put a block there so nothing twists or turns. And then, because it's not exactly 100% accurate doing the long pieces that way, I just run it through just to trim off the edges afterwards. I mean, I'm only losing a 1/16 of an inch on these, so I think it's well worth it just to take a little extra leave it a little extra long initially, and then just, as you can see here, just slightly trim it down to the proper size. So I'm going to have 2 long pieces which are going to go the width of the bench, and then there's going to be 4 legs. Now the 4 legs are going to be adjusted for length to compensate for the thickness of the top, and of course for the thickness of the actual cross piece at the bottom as well. So hopefully I've done that properly, and I'm just going to cut these 4 here, and then what I need to do is drill them for the dowel pegs, which are going to fit dead center, hopefully, in both ends of these. So these are going to sit like that, and then what's going to sit under the bottom of it is one of those cross pieces, and then the tabletop is going to go on top of that. So what I'm going to do here to show this is I'm just going to stick these 2 pieces of 2x4 here. They're not finished or anything, of course, and that's going to sit on there, and that whole length from top to bottom is going to be the overall height for this thing. And I think it's going to be reasonable. I took the cut slit off of here, and I had a look at it, and like I said, I just sort of figured out what it's going to feel like to work on it in that position, and it was fine. And well, that's it. It's just this is going to be friction fit, so I can make adjustments. And I'm finding this jig I made here really, really useful. As you can see, it squares these things up quite nicely, and this is a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. I'm going to run this through here, and that's what I'm going to use for the dowel pegs, 3/4 of an inch. Except, of course, on the top, because those are 1-inch holes, and they'll have to be adjusted for that as well. So as you see, it's very quick, very straightforward. This is pine, so it does gum up the Forstner bit a little bit, but it comes up quite easily. And then just flip this over, and it doesn't take any time at all just to put that on there like that, clamp it in place, double check that it's true, and then of course just run it through again. Yeah, like I said, I really like this template. I mean, I'm getting an awful lot of use out of it, and that's more than I can say for an awful lot of other ones I made for certain projects where it just turned out, yeah, it was good for that one particular thing, and then that was the end of it. So that's one done. I'm going to do the other three, of course, and then it's very easy to turn. This is 1¼ inch hardwood, so I'm going to turn that down to 3/4. A bit of a waste, I suppose, but it's really good oak, and that's really nice. It has a few cracks on the outside anyway, so once I turn this down, it gets rid of all that, and it's, of course, still really quite solid. And the nice thing about having a metal lathe here, as you can see, it takes no time at all to turn down wood. Initially, I take off quite large bites, probably more than 1/8 of an inch at a time. Obviously no stress whatsoever for the lathe, but as I get closer to where I need, getting down to the diameter that's going to be the final amount, I start taking off less and less, because you do end up with a bit of tear out on this, because it is wood, it's not metal, and I can just take less and less, shave that down nicely. I am not going to sand these ones. These are the ones that are going to go into the base where the cross piece is, and then when the legs are going to sit in that as well. They're all the same diameter. I'm just going to cut them to 2 inches for the top part that's going to go into the leg, and then 1.5 inches as well for what's going to fit in the base. So it's going to be a full length dowel from the bottom of this structure to up to 2 inches inside the legs. So it should be really quite solid. And as you see, I'm getting right down to taking off very, very little at this point. And it turned out quite nice, as you can see here in a second as I turn this off. And that's it. That's all there is to that. I'm going to just put it on the table saw and cut these off to length. Not being too concerned about the actual overall length for these ones, because it's all going to be internal and you're not really going to get to see it at all. So that's not a bad friction fit. It should be more than enough so that it's not going to fall apart on me. And also because I'm going to be sitting on this, there won't be a whole lot of wiggle room for it, going back and forth and possibly causing damage to this. So this is now the top pegs. So that's 2 inches. What I did is I ran a piece of doweling I had, there it is there, into the holes to see how deep they were, and that's going to fit down into those holes. And then I'm going to cut that off, and now this is 1.5 inches, which is the thickness of the top. And now I'm going to turn this down to 1 inch minus a very small amount, and those are going to be the pegs for fitting up into the top itself. And it should fit, well, initially it won't fit flush because I cut them just a little bit longer than I needed to, but I'm going to show you here in a second what I'm going to do. It's a very easy trick with a lathe to trim them to the exact dimension that you need. So there we go, that's the top part. So you just see now you've got a narrow part that's going to fit into the leg, top part's going to fit into the top. This is just a test hole I did to make sure that's a good friction fit. The only other thing I need to do this is sand it down a little bit, because this is never going to get glued into place. This is the part that's going to fit into the top, and it needs to be a reasonable fit. I don't want it to be obviously something that's going to be loose, but it needs to be smooth and come in and out quite easily. So a little bit of a light sanding, and then what I need to do is, of course, trim these to the proper length. So what I'm going to do is take these, pop them out of here, and I'm going to stick them into the top and make sure that, like I said, first off, that they fit properly, just in case some of the holes are slightly different. So there you go, they fit in nicely, nice and smooth, as you can see, and tap them in. I have them backed up by a piece of wood here right now so that they fit right down to the top, and you can see there is a little extra here. So what I'm going to do is pop them into the lathe and trim down the top. So you can see I've done the one on the far there. It's now nice and flush, and I just need to do that to the one here just to make sure they're, like I said, they're nice and even, and of course the same, which is kind of important. And this is how easy that is. I've adjusted it already. I've done the first one as you saw there. I do is throw this in here, put it right up against the jaws of the chuck, clamp it down, and then all I need to do, because I've already adjusted everything, is just turn it on and run the bit through it, and it takes like no time at all. And that's it. That's all you need to do. I do a little bit of sanding while it's running on the top just to smooth it out a little bit. And like I say, you can take off whatever amount that you need. in one pass. If I did it in multiple passes, it would be a bit smoother, but it wasn't really that necessary. It's, like I said, this is oak. So there you go. They're both done now, and as you can see, they're nice and flush. And because I knocked them to be flush with the top on the other side, it's they're good to go. And this is going to be now my test fit for the legs. I'm just going to pop these on here. This is pretty much where this video is going to end. I'm just going to put these in as a bit of a friction fit here, just to show you what it's going to look like. And then in the next video, I need to attach the feet, finish all the sanding on this, and then of course finish it all up, put some boiled linseed oil on it to make it look nice. There you go. That is pretty much how it's going to be. Of course, this is upside down. I'll flip it over here for you for a final look. And obviously, the legs need to be sanded and made look pretty as well. So even though this is going to get beaten on, those are the pieces that are going to go into those. Thanks for watching. Leave comments. Let me know what you think about all this. And I'll see you in the next video. And bye for now.